Well, happy Motivational Monday! Woo! And welcome back to See, Hear, Love. We hope you had a great weekend and are feeling clearly refreshed, excited, and ready for this new week ahead.
You look it, guys.
Do you?
Yeah.
Especially this one. This is the bright spot right here to my right.
So refreshing.
So let me first say hello to them, Lindsay. Hello, co-hosts Cheryl and Joanna. Love that you're here. And a huge hello to the lovely Lindsay Gladding, who, okay, excuse me, 40, how many countries have you been to?
Yeah, I mean, I stopped counting after 35.
Oh, she has stopped counting after 35 countries that she's been to. But here's the thing. Liz has been deployed to multiple crises and to multiple countries where there has been crises. So let's start with, you've been to Niger. Is it Niger or Niger?
Niger.
Niger, to support a food security crisis. You've been to Jordan to establish World Vision's response to the Iraqi refugees. You've been to Zimbabwe to support the cholera response. You've been to Haiti when the earthquake happened. You went to Pakistan in response to the massive flooding, and then you recently led the initial response to the Syria crisis for the refugees who first fled to northern Lebanon. Yeah. Excuse me.
Wow.
Lindsay, amazing woman.
Spiritual giant here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And because of this, it's because you are the Humanitarian Emergency Affairs Director of World Vision Canada.
Yes.
Amazing. And you're here to share your passion, and I just have to say on behalf of us, you're like our girl.
Yeah.
Like that kind
you.
of heart to help, that kind of sort of worldview, that is the kind of women that we love.
Definitely
And we
a
want to
woman's
aspire
crush.
to be.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
We're just gushing on you. Can you tell? We're just gushing on Lindsay. I'm totally gushing on you.
It's Lindsay Crush Monday.
Yeah, it is. So today, because it's Motivational Monday, Lindsay, we have you on because we want you to share with us about a bit of your story, about your heart for the poor and the marginalized, and some of the things that we can do proactively and very tangibly to help those that are hurting in the world. So let's start with you. How in the world did you get to this place? How did you get to be like, I want to help the world, but specifically to vulnerable children? Because I think that is your heart, right?
For sure.
How did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think it probably started when I was a summer camp counselor. I worked at a small United Church camp near Port Stanley. And we were partnered with Family and Children's Services. And so a lot of kids came to camp, most of them very soon after they were taken from their homes.
Wow.
And so working with those kids, understanding how important it was to have a safe place to just be a kid, and how much of an impact that had on those kids that were really in crisis. Yeah. And I've seen that now all over the world with children who have had to flee their homes because of conflict or drought, or just this importance of having a safe place and to be a kid makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is something really beautiful and sort of protective about children, eh? Like, I mean, not that we don't care for the adults, but there is something about kids that you just are like the most vulnerable that you want to care for.
Yeah, I mean, totally innocent and have, they're born into the circumstances they were born into. So we have a responsibility to make their lives, as good as we can.
Yeah, amazing. Now, you've seen a lot of tragedy and human suffering, just like in the beginning of my introduction, that you've basically been sent to respond to crisis, tragedy, earthquakes.
Like you go in when everyone else runs out.
Yeah.
So yes,
You just
sometimes
go like
it feels
this.
like that. Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Lindsay, what keeps you going? Because I think I could handle one crisis, but over and over and over. What keeps you going and continuing the work that you do in these very hard places?
Yeah, and I mean, I would be remiss to say that it doesn't sometimes lead to despair. I mean, you can't not see human suffering and not be affected.
Right.
And so for sure, and I think particularly coming home to Canada and just seeing the dichotomy, like the difference is probably more difficult than, and just knowing that people have no idea about what's happening in the world and from the places that I've come home from. And so sometimes, I come home from a trip and want to be standing on my roof saying, is anyone listening? And so that I think is the most difficult part. But what makes it easier and what makes me continue to do it and get back on that plane every time is the people and the kids that I meet. The incredible resilience and strength and faith that I encounter is something that you can't not help but be motivated by, and know that I have to keep doing this.
Wow.
And so do you find the stories that you come home with are like a way to help Canadians understand it? Because it's true, like you say you want to stand on your rooftop and yell about like,
Someone
why
listen.
does no one care about
Yeah.
this? But it's true, it's so different than our context, and I don't know, maybe you have, you must have 1,000 stories, but like stories that you like to share to have Canadians kind of connect the dots between what's happening over there and our lives here as Canadians.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most impactful encounters that I've had in the last little while is a woman that I met in Afghanistan. And so I was traveling there. It was actually on Mother's Day a number of years ago. And World Vision is supporting a maternity hospital in Herat City. So it's a hospital only for women. The men sit outside on the grass while their women are inside delivering babies. And so I walked through the actual labor room, which is not a normal, nice private labor room that we would have here in, Burlington or Toronto. 15 women, 20 women lined up beside each other down the hallway, essentially, in various stages of labor. And I mean, I am a mom, but never did I really prepared for that. But when I got to the end of the room, there was a 15-year-old woman who had just delivered her first baby, a daughter.
Wow.
And she named her Anita and asked me if I liked the name, and of course, great.
Anita, yeah.
And as we were, sitting and talking, I asked her, what hopes and dreams did she have for this new baby? And the first thing she said was that she hoped that Anita would have good relations with her father, in a context like Afghanistan. That is extremely important. And the second thing, though, that she said that really floored me was that she hoped that Anita could be a doctor.
Wow.
And so, again, in a place like Afghanistan where the odds are stacked so high against that ever happening, as a 15-year-old girl from the rural Afghanistan, to hope that her daughter could be a doctor, I can't lose hope when that kind of hope is possible.
Wow.
I feel, Lindsay, like I'm sitting here and I'm blown away, and I feel like in our first worldness, we can be very ignorant and safe and comfortable. And we look at World Vision on the news and we sort of see the work that they're doing, but I know that there's so much more to World Vision. So what is it about World Vision that maybe we don't know? The work that they're doing, how they go about things,
what's the philosophy?
Yeah. What is it that we could learn about World Vision today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the things that really has drawn me to work for World Vision is that we are a Christian organization, that working for World Vision, doing the work that we do, allows for that Christian expression of Jesus' love.
Right.
Every day, I get to work and support people who are acting their faith, who are actively trying to help those who are most vulnerable, that we know that, Jesus had a special place in his heart for vulnerable children. And we get to live that out every day with the work that World Vision does.
That's beautiful. One of the things that I really love about your story, Lindsay, is that you are a person who wants to pull out stories of others. The question I was going to ask you is, what have you learned from the many years of meeting with men and women? I kind of preempted myself when I just said that. But I wanted you to talk about that because, just like Cheryl's saying, World Vision is an organization that does help the least of these, the most marginalized. But I also believe they are people who are caretakers of the stories of people whose voices need to be heard.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I just got chills saying that.
Yeah.
But you are the caretakers and the bringers
They're
of
voice to the voiceless.
stories of people who need their voice heard. Talk to me about that because I think that is so powerful for any organization or any person to have and then be responsible for and to care for.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly I've learned that we're all the same. It doesn't matter if you, again, were born in northeastern Nigeria or, Afghanistan, Somalia, we're all the same. We all have the same kinds of hopes and dreams. We have, the same desire to live good lives, to care for our children and to hope that, that their lives will be better than the ones we've lived. And that's universal. No matter where I go, no matter who I meet, that's that sentiment is there. And I think to your point that people want their story to be told and heard more than anything else. Not even so much told, they want to be heard. They want to know that their life matters, that somebody cares about them. And so to be able to, sit and have tea and just talk and have that human connection, the impact of that, let alone the food assistance and the clean water and healthcare, those are important things, and we do that too. But the human connection, the ability to listen, it is just as important.
I have a question that's burning me right now. There's a misconception sometimes when we look at World Vision as such a big entity. It's a whale in terms of missions. And we sit in our home and we think, I want to give, but I'm not going to give to World Vision because they've got enough. They're over in abundance, wealth and so on. Tell us a little bit about the fact that you still do need funds, that the need is still there, and where do these funds go when I give? Like when I give, what happens?
Yeah. So I mean, World Vision is big. There's no denying that.
The biggie.
The reality is we work in almost 100 countries around the world. So yes, we have a lot of resources, and yes, we are a large organization, but that is spread out across the globe. And it allows us to do incredible things, to have the resources that we have. It means that we're the first one in when an emergency happens. We're able to stay there, and we're the last ones out because we have those resources. If we didn't, then we aren't able to serve in that way. And so I think it's yes, we're big, but that bigness has significance.
And still in need of resources all the time, right?
Absolutely. And so we're seeing that right now across Africa. So we're dealing with one of the worst humanitarian crises of our time. 20 million people are at risk of starvation. This is significant, and the only way that we can turn this around is to get food assistance, to get healthcare and clean water to as many people as
And
we
so
can.
that's half the population of Canada.
Well, it's 70. Well, because Canada's 35 million
We're
people.
almost 40 now, but
so almost half, 70%. Imagine 70% of Canadians needing life assistance, like to live. 70% of us, and that's the number that you're saying to us in Africa today. Okay, that's actually overwhelming, but that I can't even fathom that. Break that down for us, because I want us to really get behind this. I think that this, again, it's like, for somebody from the Gen Xers, we grew up with Live Aid and we've known about Africa, and then all these other things are happening, crises, and we get bombarded with all of these other things going on. But I think when you're looking at that number and you're looking at 800,000 kids, boys and girls, are impacted by this. 800,000 children are impacted by this. We're looking at displaced people, refugees. Basic necessities to live. It actually makes my heart because there is a responsibility as someone of faith to do something about it, right? So talk to us, bring it down so it's easy to digest about how this happens, like what Cheryl's saying, the support, and then what we can do to help.
So right now we're dealing with what the humanitarian community is talking about 4 famines. And that's Yemen, Nigeria, Somalia, and South Sudan. So these are countries where the situation is on the brink. I mean, in South Sudan, there are parts of South Sudan where we've already declared famine, which means thousands of people are dying, livestock is done, the crops are dead on the ground. The reality is that significant stress in those countries means that people are leaving. They have no choice. There's no food. There's no way to sustain themselves, and so South Sudanese are becoming refugees in Uganda, in Sudan. Same thing is happening in Nigeria. People are leaving. That there's no choice but to pick up and leave their homes and try to find food and water just to stay alive. And so this is something that we're seeing again across Africa, Yemen, and the Middle East. And it's heartbreaking because it does come down to those children, children whose parents can't feed them, who are starving in front of them, and there's nothing that they can do.
And so
we can help.
And so that's the painful reality. But the truth is that the future looks like wells and water and irrigation and healthcare if World Vision is there, really on the ground meeting the needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the resources that you donate to organizations like World Vision do make that difference. And we're seeing that in South Sudan. We have a long-term program, and those communities where we have that program are doing better. There's food, they have clean water, they're not being forced to leave their home, they're surviving in the midst of significant crises.
I think that's a very important point. when we're looking at millennial giving, because here's the thing, many organizations are saying we can't capture this millennial age group, 25 to 35, to give. They kind of like sort of little drop crisis, we'll drop here, we don't want to go long term, or just, that's sort of this change in giving pattern. But I think it's important to remind people that for sustainable development, for next generations to come, you have to be on the ground there the long term. You can't just like in and out.
I was just going to talk
Right?
about
Like,
that.
but I think that we have to, and I say this to myself, but I also say that to our demographic that watch this show, to be reminded that it's not just like a quick
It's
get
not
in, get out.
It's not just text your $5.
Yes.
Exactly, exactly.
And
that
to
there's
me-
that long term.
But that's a start.
It is a
It's
start.
a start.
I
It is
don't
a
want to
start.
discourage people from
No,
doing that too.
And I
Yeah.
think that's important. There is a start, but I think that there is also this thing called commitment
Yeah.
that many of us are afraid to do to keep the money and the funds and the people there on the ground.
I just wanted to say that really is what sets organizations apart for me. Being someone from the African diaspora, having gone there myself, we are very sensitive around what we call the messianic complex, and you're very clear of what that is. And so we, as a people, we're not really fond of those that just come and sort of rescue white knight, leave. So what I love about World Vision is that you're partnering, you're laboring, you've got workers there that live in relationship and do life, and I think that that's where the progression and the success rate happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's central to the work that we
It's
do.
huge.
Absolutely.
So Lindsay, looking at Africa and looking at, like, you've been there. When was the last time you were there?
2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I was in Mozambique.
Wow.
So you actually saw firsthand what was going on. Just give us a snapshot, and then I want you to sort of direct us to what are the next steps that we can do as a show and as people that are watching to help in this Africa and I would say crises, famine crises now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of my colleagues was just recently coming back from Somalia, and when she was there, she met a man he had 2 children in our cholera treatment center. So again, when people don't have access to clean water, you drink the water that's available, and it had made his kid sick. And so in the course of the conversation with this father, my colleague learned that 2 of his other children had died before they were able to make it to this center. The children that were in the cholera center were recovering. They were, we were bringing them back to health, but it was too late for those 2 children that had already passed away. And so it's this constantly balance of despair and hope that we have to keep in balance. You can't give in to the despair and say, I can't do anything, I can't help, it's too late.
Because it would be overwhelming.
Yeah.
Right?
We can do something. We
Yeah.
can make this difference. And so I think it does mean, parting with our financial resources. It's not easy. We want the next iPhone. There are things that are demanding our attention and resources every time we walk out the door. But this matters. This is important.
And the truth is, a lot of it is excess, right?
Well, to me, it's a legacy issue. I mean, one of my favorite worship songs, there's this phrase that says, may the echo of my days be about, the things that actually matter.
good.
And it's this echo, like, what is the thing that we're doing and going to be about in our life? Because I know that this phone
Right.
is going to be, it costs a lot of money, and I'm going to be getting a new one this fall, probably.
And I'll
it's,
take
it's
that
so
one.
disposable. My point is that it's disposable
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
This is not the legacy of my life,
Yeah.
the echo of my days, the thing I want to be part of. What are the things that we're going to be about that are going to matter 100 years from now?
Yes.
And it's things like the things that you're a part of, the things that we can partner with you in. I mean, most of the ways that we spend our time and resources are not those things.
I'm going to piggyback Joanna because every time she opens her mouth, I love her. Cornel West said that justice is what love looks like in public, and I feel like there's a call to action that she's bringing to the table, that we can't sort of just worship in our safe houses anymore. That love needs to look like something, and I feel like that's what this show is really bringing home. Is that it's time for us to sort of get up and live out our Christian faith, and we may not be able to touch the ground, but there are people that are brave enough to do that, like yourself, and so there's ways that we can make that happen.
Yeah.
Well, we've made it easy because it actually, because of our partnership, we're committed to, alleviating this. On the brink of starvation is jarring, but that's the reality. And so we have a button on our website, Lindsay, that it's so easy for our viewers to go onto our homepage, and it says, help the African crisis and the famine, and you just click on there, and then World Vision takes it from there and sort of directs you on what to do next
That's
and how to
great.
give. So it's very easy. We made it very easy, and you're not
that's
going to miss it
good.
because it's literally on the homepage and then all these other pages on our website.
Yep.
And we're also going to feature you on our Facebook and on social media as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Lindsay, just to finish off, I want you just to do, because you're so great and inspiring, I just want you to share just a thoughtful, encouraging, or inspiring message to those that are like kind of on the fence about giving, whether it's a story or something that you've learned personally about your journeys in these, crisis areas and how you've responded. But what would you say to those that are watching today?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, I think it starts with living a life of gratitude. And so when we wake up every morning and are thankful for the things that we have in our lives, that gratitude and thankfulness, it becomes action. Like you said, you walk out that door,
Yeah.
and that love and gratitude, it will come out of you. And part of that is responding to the suffering that we see in the world. And so whether that means, talking to a homeless person on the street, or donating resources to help an organization like World Vision do overseas development work. We have to start from a place of gratitude and recognize the significant blessing we have in our lives and
that hit me.
spread that.
Yeah.
Lindsay, that's good. Oh,
What I just got from that is Christianity is no longer a noun. It no longer describes who we
Sure.
are. It has to be a verb.
verb.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
agreed.
Yeah.
And I'm so thrilled that we're partnering with you. And when I say you,
Me too.
it is the organization, but it's you as the people.
Yeah.
Like, we have to get past the organization, the logo. It's actually people like you going there, working in the trenches, doing the hard work. And thank you. Thank you for your life and the work that you do. We all can't do that, so you're like this extension of our sisterhood.
You put a face to
Yes,
it, which
you
is
totally
great.
do. And continue to bring those stories to us. I want to hear more of women and men and children with stories that say, don't forget us, share my story to, North America so that we are not forgotten. It actually makes me tear a little bit. Really important. So thank you,
Thanks so
Lindsay.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah, amazing. And to you viewers, thank you for being with us. Here's the thing. When I talked to my husband, Chris, that Lindsay was coming on the show today, and I was telling him about the numbers of those who are being impacted in Africa, he looked right at me and said, Melinda, we need to support World Vision Canada today. So join Chris and I, join the See, Hear, Love team, because we're going to do this. It is a responsibility of someone of faith, and even if someone not of faith, because I know a lot of you are not Christian that watch, but as humanity, as care for one another, for the children, we must do something. And it must come out of this place of gratitude for what we have.
Right.
And like Joanna said, every bit matters and counts. If you can do $5, if you can do 1,000, 1,000,000, wherever you're at, give and help the people in Africa today. So thank you so much. Lindsay, we're going to be getting blogs from you. We're going to want to hear some stories online from you, so it'll be great to hear.
Great.
And you're kind of going to be our reporter, and so send us a lot of content
I'll
and
do it.
pictures.
Yes.
Honestly, we would love that.
Yeah, looking forward to
Okay.
it.
All right. Thanks. Well, thanks for joining us here on Motivational Monday. Hope that this motivated you to see the world in a different light. Pray for the people in Africa. Our brothers and sisters need your love and care today. And we will see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.